lot more. Do this up. Let's get some stuff out the way. Um, December 13th, 2014, I got invited to Louisiana, Nubian Culture Bookstore, to do a lecture out there on who told you that you came here on a slave ship. So some of the Moors out there, um, you know, looking to get information, going through different sources, finding out there's a lot of, funny talk and stuff like that. So, made a call and got something going on. So, Fujo is going to be in Louisiana. The event's going to be at the Nubian Cultural Outreach Center, 7720 Linwood Avenue. And that's December 13th, 1 to 4 p.m. Also, December December 21st, winter solstice, we're gonna have a lecture, a Skype lecture with Sister Sheila Bay. Her website is moreastrology.com, and the sister is going to be talking about Moore's connection to the winter solstice and astrology, etymology, things like that. As well, if anybody's into I listen to hip hop music. This Friday we have there's a concert this Friday. Ghostface Killer of Wu-Tang is going to be down here, and I'm supposed to be opening for him with a hip hop group in Scarborough by the name of One Oak. Been doing hip hop for a little while, conscious artists. So if anybody's looking for tickets for that, you could get at me. Because it's going to be $60 at the door or something. Let's find that out.
60. Wow.
60 at the door.
Thanks for the ticket.
Yeah. So if you want to go see Ghostface, make sure you get your stuff up. Today's class we're going to be dealing with Black Panthers are all Moors, but not all Moors are Black Panthers. Right? The reason why this came up is because on Friday there was news that came out about two Moors that allegedly got caught buying or making some arrangements to buy pipe bombs and guns and stuff to go bomb something. The video that came out about it utilized the nationality card that we use in the video to show this bomber guy that's a Black Panther, right? We have to put our thinking caps on and all that stuff, because we were warned by the prophet about what's going to happen if we allow other people to tell the story about the disadvantaged minority, right? So, as we know, there's a jurisdiction of people that identify themselves Negro, Black, colored people, and these individuals are, basically beggars, and they don't want to do anything for themselves. They don't want to take responsibility for nothing. They just want the European to recognize that they're the founders of something like that, when Europeans not even paying them any attention. Matter of fact, Europeans taking the position of, 80% of their women or our women are in prison because they want to be Negro black colored. 90 something percent of the men are in prison because they want to be Negro black colored. Um, Police, so-called law enforcement, shoot people 50 times, get off, drag people out their car, beat them up, get off with pay, whatever like that. Choke people out on the corner. Black people, they're going to go to the UN, try to say, you're violating people's rights. The UN is laughing at them or whatever, sending them home, and they don't get it. And they continue to not get it, right? So in 1928, Noble Drew Ali put out an article in the Moorish Guide talking about the the press, the importance of Moors having their own press, right? So we're just going to read that and um, relate that to a situation that we have going on. It is not unusual for a newspaper to make its debut in the city of Chicago. The past years have seen many such come and many such go. The Moorish Guide, taking its initial bow to the public, knows not what the future awaits it, but throwing its efforts on the sides of right reason and tolerance, we hope that we might make the grade. The Moorish Guide enters the field of journalism with malice toward none and charity to all. It is not our purpose to disregard the work of other splendid journals. It is not our purpose to fail to give due attention and space to all American citizens, individuals, and organizations alike who are working in their chosen field of endeavor for the progress and development of all American citizens and all American institutions. We hope to cooperate with them in the intensive and grueling battle for universal justice. The Moorish Guide feels that the greatest weapon in the hands of our group today in America is our press. The truth will never be told about a disadvantaged minority by the general press of any country, whether that minority be racial, political, or religious, unless we express ourselves through papers of our own. The truth about us will not be told. Many of our accomplishments, many of the beautiful things, many of the hopeful things, and events which mark the progress of our group will go unrecorded if it not for papers of our own. Our papers are our only hope of shoveling ourselves out from under the avalanche of lies that are annually let loose upon us. A strong free press is the best possible safeguard for the liberties in general promotion, and defense of the interests of strong free people. So Noble Drew Ali set up a newspaper, told the Moors to use their newspaper in order to tell their story, right? And he did express it in plural. He didn't say the paper. Every reference that he made of paper, he said papers, plural. So there's not supposed to be any so-called Moorish group, organization, club, whatever, that doesn't have a newspaper. It's a prerequisite that if they say that they follow Noble Drew Ali and they honor him and they respect him and, praise Allah, 5 on the left, 2 on the right and all that stuff, then just like they have a fez, they should have a paper. If they don't have a paper, that's suspect. That's very suspect if you don't have a paper. Because when Noble Drew Ali made a statement that everything that I say is spirit, so Moors better heed. So even though he's talking words, he's letting Moors know that everything that I say out of my mouth is coming from a spiritual place. It's not coming from me just saying something because I have a mouth, tongue, know a language, right? Noble Drew Ali is a physical manifestation of the Most High's thought manifested on the earth plane in order to teach certain people who fell out of spirituality, fell out of nationhood and all that stuff, to bring them back into that, right? And one of the ways that we were gonna, or we were supposed to do that, was to express ourselves through our own papers so that our story can be told. And other people can, instead of, going to, like you might hear, um, let's use black power people, for example. You might hear them push the perspective that, well, Noble Drew Ali has a book called The Holy Quran of the Moral Science Temple, and that came from some European that wrote a book called Aquarian Gospel, right? And they're going to go to the Europeans' version and say Noble Drew Ali stole something from European. When all those people that call themselves black, that say black power, that say whatever it is that they identify themselves as, all those people are Moors. And they have an obligation to recognize the prophet before they recognize anybody else. They have an obligation to do that. So if we ask, Chinese, they got prophet. They're not going around playing around with other people's prophet, talking about, we don't recognize our own prophet that looks like us, but we're going to go recognize somebody's prophet over there, right? If you talk to Jews, they got one prophet that they look up to, hold dear to themselves, or whatever. You talk to Hindu people, they got their one prophet that they got whatever. You talk to the Aztecs, the Mayans, Mexicans, whoever, everybody has one individual that they say, okay, that guy or that lady came for us only. And we're going to take these lessons that they gave to us and we're going to, expound on these lessons, right? Our papers are our only hope of shoveling ourselves out from under the avalanche of lies that are annually let loose upon us. This is 1928. So back then he knew that if anybody seen an avalanche before, you've seen, whether it's movie, news broadcast, or whatever, people get buried in avalanche, whatever the case is, right? Equate that snow to lives when we read this. So that's the amount of lies that we have to annually deal with as Moors. Not as Negro, black, colored people, African people, or whatever. As Moors, they have a mode of operation. And their mode of operation is make sure that whatever about the Moors doesn't get out. And if it does get out, it gets out distorted, misrepresented, um, um, in the form of propaganda, so that people would see it and be like, I don't want nothing to do with that, and walk away from their own stuff that's theirs, just because, media said something. But then again, if we had our own paper, if we had our own press, we would be able to tell our story to counteract all these other stories that people are putting out, right? So this is why we're doing this class, right? To use video, whatever, as a form of press to put out our side of the stuff, so people don't get caught up or whatever, because it's already happened that, people are tripping that, oh my gosh, that's the card that I have in my pocket, and they're trying to connect that to terrorists. And they're already starting to toe the line as to, well, should I really be on this, or is this a terrorist or whatever, when that's not even supposed to be something on their dial plate. That's not even supposed to be something that comes to their mind. Why? Just because the jurisdiction that put out the story is some European, so-called enemy. How are you going to go with the enemy? The enemy says something about something and you're just going to go with it? Just because, they show a picture of a Moor or whatever, or they show a picture of a Fez, or they try to, make this thing called your nationality and birthright seem like some evil thing that, people are going to get on this and they're going to do something, they're anti-government people and all this, when the reality is they know that their time's up. The people who are in power, the people who are calling themselves government, they know that their time's up. Their time's been up. And the only thing that's keeping these so-called fraudulent government out here alive is the fact that there's still Negro, black, colored people in existence. There's still these individuals that refuse to accept the fact that they have a nationality that they can claim and actually be part of the human family, instead of claiming to be a chair and being mad when people sit on them, and wanna argue that people shouldn't be sitting on them when they call themselves a chair. You call yourself a chair, people are gonna sit on you, stand on you, you know what I mean? Tear your skin off, reupholster you, whatever, because it's a thing. King Alfred plan came out. You have all these black leaders. All these black leaders know about King Alfred plan. They know about the attack that the so-called minority is going to get from the so-called white man, right, on an everyday basis. They know about, if something happens in the so-called black community and it's getting into race war and stuff like that, they're calling in the military. They're not using no, Glocks and whatever like that. Yeah, people with machine guns and tanks or whatever coming to deal with this issue. And they still don't get that they're the ones that's the problem. It's not the enemy that's the problem. It's not the white man that's the problem. It's these people taking this position that they are something that they're not. Right? So what we want to do is, because they in this propaganda campaign against the Moors, they, like I was saying, they used a card that is familiar to Moors, right? So the idea of avalanche of lies is really going at the individuals who produced this card for the Moors to be able to have their birthright. That's really who they're attacking, in my personal opinion. And it's not personal against the individual, right? Now, to get a background of the story, know that the individual that got caught up in this thing, know that he has his own videos out there, right? Where he's speaking from the perspective of the international community needs to help, the black people. But he's more with the nationality card, supposedly, right? He's not attired in his national headwear, whether it's turban, fez, or whatever. He's just out there, talking stuff, right? He's said to be the local leader of the Black Panther Party in this area of St. Louis, Missouri. Now, all this stuff is tied to the whole Ferguson stuff and all that, right? If you were paying attention to the whatever marching, picketing, whatever going on in Ferguson, you might have seen some pictures that came across news, whatever, with Moors in there, fezzes on CNN and stuff like that, Moroccan flags. People actually putting mics in Moors' faces, asking them questions during this Ferguson thing, right? One thing that we really push as active Moors is we don't want to get tied to any of these so-called pseudo groups, black groups, African groups, or whatever, because we're not a group, we're a nation of people, right? When the pictures first started coming out, right, we were very questionable about these individuals that were in these news broadcasts or whatever like that, because they're Moors. Why Moors do it on CNN? Moors don't go to march and picket and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Moors just don't do that. We ain't no march and picket or whole plaque signs talking about justice and all that. It's just not what we do. Because as a nation of people, you get your delegates to send a letter to the head of whoever, and then that guy would do whatever he has to do because, you dealt with him directly or her directly. We're not gonna march and hopefully, you know, we can influence some change through marching, right? Um, we were in contact with some Moors who um, corrected the position by letting us know that nah, those are actually real Moors that are there, right? And the only reason that those Moors were able to get on camera and get on whatever is because they had a connection at the news station that let them know where all the live stuff's going to be filmed. So those Moors just position themselves where the live camera is going to be, right? So that the imagery of the Moors being connected to, you know, this issue and, you know, standing up with the people, you know what I mean? Show some camaraderie with the fake people, you know what I mean? Um, this is where it got us now, right? Same thing that, you know, we were not supposed to, right? So, you know, we'll go back to Noble Drew Ali again because everything that he said is spirit, Moors better heed, and Moors didn't heed, and then now this is what they're getting for not heeding, right? Um, in another article again in the newspaper, Noble Drew Ali had that has been out of existence since, you know, 1928 or whatever. And then now we have select Moors that are republishing papers and putting out their own papers now. But, you know, even those Moors who are doing that, you know, the wayward Moors are saying that they're violators of something, you know what I mean? They don't have no authority to put out papers and all this type of stuff. And because ship sinking. And everybody who sided with this foreign European colonist, inquisitionist corporation that's pretending to be government, they're sinking with that. And what's going to be left are the Aboriginal indigenous people that were always here, that nobody paid attention to while they're paying attention to all these other people that call themselves Aboriginal, indigenous, whatever, right? So Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, it is most earnestly hoped that the Moorish Science Temple of America will not in any way be confused with any Back to Africa movement. That's Noble Drew Ali's words, right? That it is earnestly hoped that the Moorish Science Temple of America will not in any way be confused with any Back to Africa movement. Now, if this individual is a Moor, right, nationalized, has nationality card and all that stuff, why is he leader of some black whatever? Not just a minion that's part of some whatever. He's a leader of a black thing. And then more say that they're not black. And then when you check the record, right? When you check the record, a panther is indigenous to Asia and Africa. Where is it, America? So if they're in America, they should really be calling themselves jaguars because there ain't no panthers over here. They should really be black jaguars. And if they're not calling themselves black jaguars, then obviously they don't know what the hell they're talking about, calling themselves black panthers. Because panthers aren't over here. And panther is the Latin name of the family of cats. They are really and truly, it's a leopard. It's a black leopard. Because a jaguar is a panther. So if a jaguar is a panther and a leopard is a panther, these people don't know what they're talking about, calling themselves black panthers. And then on top of that, they're going to be saying that they're black people or whatever like that. When a panther is Asiatic. So there's all these little things that aren't paid attention to that get people in jurisdictions that they're not supposed to be in. Right? You had something back there, oh?
The prophet also warned.
Sorry, talk up a little.
The prophet also warned to stop all radical speeches in the workplace and out there, basically, right? So that would be another form of sort of radical, right?
Right. But the most radical people are those black whatever guys. They're more radical than anybody.
As well as calling for radical.
Right? Radical
reaction.
change or radical actions. Right? Now, we want to also put it out there that, you know, if the brother didn't have his own videos out, then, you know, it's defense of the Moor. But he got videos out talking about the international community needs to help black people. But he said that he's a Moor. Moors don't talk like that. Moors don't talk about, you know, oh, well, you know, we'll call them black because, you know, that's where they are. You know what I mean? And when they become Moors, then we call them Moors. Everybody's Moors to Moors. Especially if they got that card that they're showing, because all the Moors who have this particular card that we're going to be looking at, they study. They're extremely studious. And they don't play around with, you know what I mean, holding back information from their people and stuff like that. They give their people everything. And then it's up to them whatever they want to do with it. Right? So we want to, if you got your nationality card, make sure you pull it out right now so we can analyze a few things on this so we're clear as to why the propaganda. Why try to, you want to hit that light bulb? Why try to put the negative on what the Moors are doing, right? The active Moors. Okay? So immediately when the thing came out, the first thing that one of the Moors pointed out was, where's the hologram? Now on the nationality card, right? When you look at the nationality card, you might even be able to see it from back there. But if I hold this up here, you can see there's some flashy stuff from this far away, right? Nothing like that is on this card right here. So already we have some discrepancies that need to be addressed. Where did this come from? Is this even his? Did they take this off the site somewhere, put his face on it to try to imply that Moors are down with this? But then again, remember, you know, he does have the name Ali, which is a Moorish title of nobility, right? So, I mean, you know, even if he doesn't have a fez on, he still has the name of a Moor, right? Now, the other part of it is that Noble Ali told the Moors don't use the name Ali, because that name is exalted. That's a high name, and you have to earn that name Ali. So when you hear somebody call themselves Moorish American, and you ask them what's their appellation, and they say, oh yeah, whatever, Ali, immediately you got to start questioning something. Because the Prophet himself said not to use that name, or that appellation, or that title, right? Nationality. Moorish American. Autograph. Whatever autograph is. Right? Comes back again. We put the card up right here. You notice that on the nationality card, there's no box right here. There's no rectangle to put your name in. So that's suspect. Why is this box here? Did they put this over something? There's something under there? You know what I mean? Right? The so-called appellation. Olajuwon, Hakeem, Osriel, Rahim, Lamar, Xavier, Ali. Olajuwon Morlexle. Moors don't abbreviate, especially your appellation. Because once you abbreviate, then you're given authority to anybody who wants to fill in whatever they want there. Nationality, Moorish American. Well, my card says more American. So how do they get Moorish here when mine says more on it? Okay. Appellation. Appellation, nothing. And then something under it. When this should be appellation written where Elijah is, and then Elijah written from here over, and if you need extra space, you go to the next line. You don't put appellation up here. So there's a lot of discrepancies, right? There's probably more stuff that we're not even gonna waste our time on. Okay. The propaganda against the Moors is due mostly to the fact that so-called Moors haven't done their job what they're supposed to do. Okay, the lights. Certain Moors have taken the position of letting people's birthright be something that they have to buy. Right? Majority of people that identify themselves as so-called conscious community the so-called people who identify themselves as conscious community, majority of these people are the most unconscious people that you're going to bump into. Why? Because they don't have any common unity. How you get common unity? By having a nationality. And this is deliberately, purposely going out to all the so-called Black Panther people or whatever like that, because, this is their boy that got picked up or whatever. Their local leader of the Black Panther or whatever, right? Now, why is it that they've been doing Black Panther going and marching, rallying stuff for ever, supporting stuff or whatever like that? How is it that this is the first time that they got alleged to be in some bomb stuff? And the only individual, matter of fact, the two individuals that they connect to this bomb thing were the Moors of the Black Panther thing. Tell me there was no other Black Panther guys that were down with this thing of bomb, whatever. Only the Moors. Oh, well, because, the Moors are so-called Islamic, right? So they have to be the terrorists. But if the Islamic Moors are the head of this organization or this local chapter, right? If the Moors are the head of it, the Moors are the leaders of this jurisdiction, why is it that everybody in that jurisdiction isn't Moors? Why is it that only those two guys are Moors and everybody else are black people? Because as a Moor, if you're the head of something, Black Panthers or whatever, and you say that you're a Moor, you have an obligation to let everybody else know that they're Moors around here. Now, keep in mind that Um, the last leader of the new Black Panther Party, Malik Zulu Shabazz, Malik Zulu Shabazz, who's a so-called, he passed the bar. He passed the bar, right? So he can be free and leave everybody else behind the bar or whatever, right? He passed the bar, and before he left the new Black Panther Party, he told them, "Oh yeah, I know that we're all Moors." Big lecture too. All the Black Panther guys were there. He told them that they're Moors. He also told them that he recognizes and honors and respects Noble Drew Ali. But he's not part of this no more, so we can't really use him as an example. But they were told, right? Prior to Malik Zulu Shabazz, big news. Khalid Muhammad came out, said that he's a Moor. Everybody knows about it. Everybody's seen the video. It's not anything secret. Like we talked about, it wasn't only Black Panthers that were at that meeting. Nation of Gods and Earths were at that meeting when Khalid Muhammad said that he's a Moor. I don't hear no Nation of Gods and Earths coming out here talking about they're Moor. There's a few of them, but not how it's supposed to be. They're not coming out proclaiming their nationality, right? Um, when Khalid told them now to the new Black Panther Party, Khalid Muhammad was known as the general of that. This is the highest office. So the highest official of the new Black Panther Party came out and told these people that they're Moors and that he's Moor and that he has sense enough to know that he's a Moor. And they never followed suit with that. They never picked this up and started exercising it, but they're going to say that they honor him. They're going to say that they respect him. They're going to, like we bring up, funeral and carry the casket and all that stuff. Yeah, I was the one that carried Khalid Muhammad's casket. But you're Negro. You're black. If I ask you what your identification is, you're going to show me a license. Matter of fact, you probably won't show me the license. You'll deny the fact that you have the license and run off into some oblivion about, why you're black and universe and cosmic or whatever like that. When, real simple, you say that black's your identity, all right, show me something to prove that. You tell me that Hebrew Israelite is your nationality, all right, show me something to prove that. We can go in the pocket and we can show somebody something and say, oh, here's more. Oh, you don't want the card? Okay, here's some papers. We'll show you that too, that we're Moors. But all these other people, these conscious, common unity people that don't have any unity, right, are going to deny the fact that they're that. And as soon as some news broadcast from some European comes on TV, criminalizing Moors, now they're, see, we told you guys the Moors are whatever, playing around with their own birthright, right? Go back. Go back and listen to all the Fred Hampton stuff. Go back and listen to all the Black Panther Party stuff, 10-point plan and all that. Go back and check the records of, breakfast program and stuff like that. Black Panthers wasn't on some revolution, shoot people up and all that stuff. They're about defending the community from police brutality and making sure that these children have some breakfast before they go to school because, the times that were, you have children, they're doing it today, going to school with no breakfast or whatever like that. And they made it a purpose to be humanitarian. They took the position of making sure that the community had a common mentality or perspective. That's about the children, protecting the women and the children. That's why we have guns out here or whatever. We're not here, kill crackers just because they're European, right? When when the news stuff came out, right? We're up to now. I haven't heard any Black Panthers stuff. That's their boy. How come they're not defending their boy? Or are they not defending their boy because, he decided to say that he's a Moor, and if he says he's a Moor, then that's contrary to the Black power, the Black Panther perspective. Because, they're black guys. So why would they be Moors? Why would they defend this guy more? But, I mean, he's the head of the chapter. Somebody made him head of the stuff. Somebody had to check his appellation, check some type of ID or whatever to say, okay, that guy, he's qualified to be the head of something, put him in St. Louis so he can be whatever, right? You're also going to do your research. We put it up there already. Jerry Lewis Bay, known as the Bay of Missouri. You do your research on Jerry Lewis Bay, you're going to come up to that question again. How come nobody knows about Moors over there? How come all these guys want to be black people and they're content with being black people when there was a Moor by the name of Jerry Lewis Bay who pretty much ran Missouri? There's a Moor known as Jerry Lewis Bay who pretty much met with everybody who says that they're so-called government authority, whatever, in Missouri. Put them on notice. Had Moroccan diplomats calling for him to come to Morocco and stuff like that. But what they do with him? Trump up some charges on him, get him out of circulation. Just like they do with everybody else that makes the claim that they're not Negro, black, colored people. And it's a repetitive theme. Because, like we said, these individuals' time is over. They don't have anything to stand on anymore. They are, like we say, yes, they are bankrupt, they're insolvent, they're dissolved, right? They don't have any collateral whatsoever when Negro, black, colored people stop being Negro, black, colored people. When Negro, black, colored people start recognizing that they have a nationality, right? They have a nationality. And not only that do they have a nationality, but that it's their birthright. It's their right from birth to be connected to a nation. And as soon as you realize that you're not connected to a nation, you should want to do something to correct that immediately. ASAP. Because everything that's happening to these people, everything that's happening to them, is happening because they don't have a nationality, not because somebody doesn't like them or doesn't like their skin color or doesn't like how they dress or whatever. It's directly because they are stateless or minus a state. So they're just a body walking around. They're just a zombie. Say that again? Right? Okay? Because when you, right? So racism doesn't exist, right? Now, when you do your research on racism, you'll find out that race, the concept of races, what's your race or whatever, Europeans made that up. Some Europeans made up the concept of race. that there's people who are, there's a Negroid or whatever, the Africanoid, and all these other pseudo representations of people. When really everything comes down to, do you belong to a nation? Now they're gonna lie and then they're gonna say, oh yeah, I belong to a black nation. Right? Oh, okay, so, really what they're saying, they belong to the pale nation, which they do. Because black means pale. So if they're saying that they belong to the black nation, then they're saying that they're property of the European, which they are. That's why when you ask them, let me see your black whatever ID, they're going to give you a license that came from the state of whatever, which is European corporation, that they think is government or whatever like that. And that has no tie to government whatsoever. That's a fiction. And they're accepting that as, yeah, this is who, I am. Because, that guy who's the leader of whatever, he said that we're black people. But that guy who's the leader of whatever, he got doctorate or whatever from some university, and he knows about some Europeans making up a race or whatever. He knows that, the people are really Moors. They're not this fiction. They're not adjectives. A noun can't be an adjective and have legitimacy in the world. It's impossible for an adjective to be respected by humanity. Right? This is.
Say, like, because I'm watching the Ferguson issues too. So with the European now getting terrified because they realize that the Moors are waking up in the sense that now they're identifying themselves to their nationalities.
Right.
So do you think that's one of the reasons why they're doing what they're doing?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
To add to that, basically, it's in regards to what has been laid out back in the 40s and 50s, but which was laid out back in the 1700s. Something which is new is called the King Alfred Plan. So what we've been able to delineate in terms of the information that they've been putting out there, like the governor this week issued a state of emergency in Missouri, state of Missouri. That state of emergency basically said that the county police, the state police, and the municipal police, they're all going to get together now. So basically, if the whole state police is getting together with the county police and the Ferguson police, the whole state of Missouri is under a state of emergency. And if you do a little bit more searching, that more or less is martial law. Because a state of emergency, the higher ups could say, listen, nobody goes out tomorrow. If you do, then this is what's going to happen to you. Because if the state police is involved, it's on the books now that the whole state of Missouri is under martial law.
And then don't get it twisted that, because we're Moors, then we hear martial law, we're going to go outside. Don't be, stupid with your birthright.
No, that's
Right? No, because people's perspective. Yeah, because people's perspective is, oh, I'm a Moor, so I can go out here with martial law or whatever. Nobody gonna do nothing to me. When remember that county, state, and municipal, right? And municipal becomes federalized. That means they have military power. And if you give some county, state, municipal guy, they don't have military power right now and they're strangling people on the corner. What do you think these people are going to do when they got military power? You think they're playing around? They're not playing around.
So that means because
people think these guys are playing.
Well, that is most of the reason, but this has already been laid out already.
It's already something it's not something that they're working on.
No, I know it's nothing new.
Yeah. So they just have the power to do it now because they have an issue to do it.
They have an issue,
Right? That issue is that some people are going to riot, some people are because of a decision that's going to come down. So let's be preemptive and put it out there. Which one?
Oh.
Yes, right there. let's be preemptive and let's declare state of emergency. That way they can do whatever they want. They have a reason to do it now. The reason is, oh, these guys are rioting. Look what they're doing. They're breaking stores. But I mean, as Moors, you could study enough to know that we know that there are people that went and did that to get that started. But it's here now. But they've already planned for that to be here already.
Exactly. We have to know, use wisdom now how to deal with it. Okay.
But we know that it's here.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, like when we're not going from the perspective of Europeans, free man on the land, whatever. When they start talking about martial law, and you know they're talking panicky, you know, I mean, oh my God, you know, and then they're gonna come in and they're gonna put people in the FEMA coffins like that.
But they were getting ready
That's
to do
not.
that.
Yeah, they're getting ready to do that to stateless people. They're getting ready to do that to everybody who doesn't have a nationality.
Yeah.
Mainly Negro, black, colored people, because that's really the only people out here that playing around like they can be, you know,
About the law.
they can be, you know, colors or whatever, right? That's the only people that play that.
Yeah.
If you go other places in the world, they don't know what black people are until they come to North America.
Okay.
They're absent-minded of people being colors. They don't know what that is, right? To know who you are, they talk to you, and based on your language, they know, oh, you're French, German, whatever like that. They don't look at people and say, oh, you look like a black guy because, you know, your skin is... They don't do that. Because you got some people who look like them that could talk that language too. And they're not going to get classified in that. That was like a more was telling me today about a brother from Rwanda or something like that, that he was pissed because when he came here, in order for him to get a job or something like that, he had to be black. Like he had to check off black in order to get whatever it was that he wanted to get. And he knew for himself that he wasn't that. And that tore away at him for a while. That they actually put me under this label in order to give me this benefit or whatever. You know? But what now, the other thing that we have to recognize is that the disguise that the so-called Black Power, Black Panther, whoever people use to do these actions is that, you know, they've been disenfranchised and marginalized, and, you know, European did whatever to them. So in order to, you know, lift that off of them, there has to be a revolution, right? But Europeans not looking at it like that, because European knows that it's ITS. People classified as it's, right? They're not having a revolution, nothing. They're not even human beings, right? You have thing there? Yeah.
Insurrection, a rebellion or rising of citizens or subjects in resistance to the government's censure. Insurrection shall consist in any combined resistance to the lawful authority of the state, with intent to the denial manifested by acts of violence.
One more time.
Insurrection, a rebellion or rising of citizens or subjects in resistance to their governments. Insurrection shall consist in any combined resistance to the lawful authority of the state, with intent to the denial thereof, when the same is manifested or intended to be manifested by acts of violence.
Okay. Now, when we go back to the Ferguson situation, right? And the governor saying state of emergency, right? We're gonna issue a state of emergency because, you know what I mean, this verdict's gonna come out, and we're afraid that, you know, people are gonna riot or whatever, so we're gonna lock the city down now. You need an emergency to do that. You can't just do that without an emergency. There has to be an emergency first, and then you have the state of emergency, right? Just like, you can't have a foreclosing after a sale, because fore means before. So if you already bought the house or didn't pay whatever, and then they're coming and say, oh yeah, we're gonna foreclose on you because you didn't make your mortgage payment or whatever. First question to them is, how are you gonna foreclose after? When fore means before. Shouldn't you foreclose and then talk about the house and payments and whatever like that? Have everything backwards. Makes no sense. But I mean, it makes sense to the higher ups because they already know that it's insurrection that they're dealing with, right? Which is rebellion, which Constitution says they got to protect the state from or whatever, because rebellion in the state, whatever, right? Rebellion of citizens or subjects. They know that Negro black colors aren't citizens, so these people are subject, which makes them more a threat because they're subjects and their resistance to government. Okay, the resistance to government is them not wanting to have a nationality. The resistance to government isn't them trying to do something against the people called government, because those people know that they're not government. They're a private corporation. The so-called Negro black colored people is the government, but they can't be that under Negro black colored. They can only be that if they have nationality. So when they resist, when they say insurrection and citizens or subjects resistance to government, know that the people who said, because he even mentioned insurrection in the state of emergency. So they know exactly what they're about. They know exactly what they're about to do, right? They know exactly who they're going after, because, like Brother Amari said, this is not anything new. They've been laid this thing out, and they've been just sitting back, waiting. They're sitting back, waiting when they're going to drop this thing. They're just sit back, just wait, see what happens. They're not worried about black people doing anything, because majority of the time when something does go down, so-called black people, they burn their own stuff down. They don't go burn down police stations or nothing like that. They go burn down this man who had shop here for 30 years or whatever, burn down his store. Go riot the old lady's store that they've been going to since they were this big. But police station, people who's killing police or whatever, they're not going to go do nothing to that, right? So-called mayor's office, who's violating them, they're not going to do nothing to that. IRS office, who's coming and telling them to pay taxes or whatever, they're not going to burn that down, but they're going to go in their own community and burn that stuff down. And then after they burn down their own stuff, talk about the government needs to help them build back stuff. Because they're the ones that caused them to burn down their own stuff because they didn't. Right? And the whole world is just sitting there just laughing. And not only are the world laughing, but they're coming over here and then the burn down stuff, they're going to come back, get their little corporate government grant, right? And then they're going to build up their own stuff and leave Negro black collar people out of it. Unless they want to buy, some blunts or some beer or whatever. You know what I mean?
On the definition of
Death?
death, the cessation of life, of the ceasing to exist, defined by conditions as a total stoppage of the circulation of blood, and cessation of the animal and vital functions consequent thereon, such as respiration, pulsation. Now, civil death. The state of a person who, though possessing natural life, has lost all his civil rights, and as to them is considered as dead. At common law, the extinction of civil rights and relations, so that the property of a person declared simply dead passes to his heirs as if dead in fact.
Right? So when you look up civil death, right, also look up in full life. When you look up civil death in the law dictionary, they tell you that civil death is the loss of all civil rights, the extinction of civil rights.
So in other words, there will be civil motus as well. Can you read that as well?
Right. Civil rights been extinct since the 1800s. The idea of whoever, Al Sharpton, whoever, Jesse Jackson, these guys come out, you know what I mean? As soon as something happens to a black guy, these guys come out, right? They're coming out because they're fighting for civil rights, right? That's the only reason why they're coming out. They're coming out because they want this to stand a little bit longer. They want this to be recognized. They want this to be, you know, at the forefront of what, of where the people go to get remedy because they got abused. Go to civil rights. But civil rights have been extinct since the 1800s. So why are they still pushing for this? Today, 2014, there's still people talking about, yeah, civil rights. We need to get civil rights recognized of our people or whatever. When that's been extinct since the 1800s. And the extinction, right? The extinction was made by the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court made a ruling in the 1800s that civil rights are extinct. And these so-called conscious people, you know, conscious means awake or whatever like that, you know what I mean? You know, you're aware. They're not aware that civil rights is extinguished and they don't have any. And the only remedy that they have is what the noble prophet, Drew Ali, brought back to them in 1913. Is the truth about their nationality and birthrights. And that's all that they need in order to be saved. They don't need anything else other than that, what he brought. But they're not going there because, you know, funny hat, you know what I mean? Muslim, whatever, who cares? You know, they're all Islamic or whatever like that. You don't want to get down with that because, you know, we're taught that the Arabs were the ones that put our people in slavery, you know, all across the Sahara and all that type of stuff, when it wasn't just Asiatics that were going across the Sahara in the slavery of the Moors. There were Europeans there too. It wasn't just our own, right? Once these people accept the fact that they have this civil rights, they just gave the jurisdiction over for these people to come into the community, you know what I mean? Do whatever it is that they do to these type of people. Because they shouldn't be here. This shouldn't even be anything that even comes to their mind. Because as soon as you research this, civil rights, you get to the point of it being unconstitutional since the 1800s by a Supreme Court. You can't study civil rights and not bump into that information about it being unconstitutional. You have to bump into that information. And if you don't bump into this information, then you're not studying at all. Playing around and studying. So the information is out there. Right? Civil little more too.
Civilly in personal civil, civilly dead. Dead in the view of the law. The condition of one who has lost his civil rights and capacities and is accounted dead in law.
Right? Dead in law. No, none of these so-called leaders that these people have put them onto game that if you call yourself black, you're saying you're dead at law. So if you're dead at law, you can't be going to the UN talking about hey, UN, you need to help us for something. You're dead at law. They're not recognizing you. They just let you come there because if they don't let you come there, they're going to look like they're denying people access to the General Assembly. Right? When really and truly, you know, they should be telling those people, get the hell out of here. We're not giving you any floor on the UN to come talk about anything around here. But on the other side of it, you know, the UN is corporate, just like those people are corporate. So, hey, you know, come on down. You can talk whatever you want to talk. It's cool, right? But when stuff goes opposite of that, don't think that you're going to have some revolution, you know what I mean, with these black people. That's immediately insurrection. And all these so-called government agencies that have been going around buying hollow point bullets or whatever, all of a sudden those hollow point bullets become very useful when people start kicking in windows and stuff around here. Right? Yeah.
I can find them for life, but
Yeah.
for life in fact and in law.
Right? Life in fact. Life in fact. So it's either you're civilly dead or your life in fact. Right? And if you have this, if you have life, you should have a nationality. If you have life. If you're saying that you're living, you should have a nationality. If you're saying that you're conscious, you should have a nationality. If you say you're conscious and when you ask your nationality, you know you're, I think I'm whatever. Or my ancestors, you know, we came here on you don't know what you're talking about. They're about to put the rope on you or whatever like that and do something. Just because. Civil little more too. Black falls under that. Negro falls under that. African falls under that. Colored falls under that. What other fake stuff we call ourselves? You name it. You name it, it's under there. Nigger falls under that. And once you're civil little more too, you're done for. That's why every time we go to court, we're done for. Immediately. No questions asked. No. Name, yeah, John, whatever. Okay, we got this ticket for whatever, whatever. You have to pay. Gavel, next guy. Chinese guy comes up. Name. You know, lawyer runs in. Oh, so, client doesn't speak any English, Your Honor. Could we set this aside for another day or whatever? Oh, yeah, no problem, bam. Get Chinese guy out of there. Chinese guy's gone about his business. He has some next date. That, you know, we don't even know if he has the next date because we're not there that he came back for the next date. His stuff really got dismissed because of his nationality. And they don't have jurisdiction to hear anything from Chinese guy. Especially if he doesn't speak the language or whatever. What are they going to hear from him? What are they going to bring up? Right? Like we talked about last week. How come all these so-called um, quote unquote Asian DVD seller guys who are selling bootleg stuff get shut down and open up next week again? How do they do that? In the same spot where they just freaking at. They ain't got a new spot or whatever. They open up in the same spot that they just had, that they just raided last week. And after the raid, right? So you know, raid means that they kick in the place, they take everything. Okay? But then next week, they have all the stuff again. But more stuff than before the raid. Right? Because nationality. Because they have certain, you know, corporate perks They have certain corporate perks because, you know, in order for them to come over here and say that they're Chinese, Canadian, or whatever like that, you know, they have to give up a little bit of their nationality. They have to compromise a bit. And in them compromising, you know, it's kind of a compromise, but it's not really a compromise because at any time they can take what they got and go back home with it. At any time, they can take what they got and go back home. Good? Right? Anytime. But you know that's and then that's what we think. We think, oh yeah, you know, I get this and go back home to Africa or whatever. You're not from there. As soon as you go back there, people are looking at you like, you're not African. You're not African. Imposter. You're from Jamaica or something, right? So these people, remember, we're talking about the conscious people. We're not talking about the dead people. We're talking about the conscious people, the people who supposedly know who they are, know themselves or whatever, right? The people who supposedly, you know, they went to Africa. They saw the biggest pyramid. You know what I mean? When you could do your research, and they'll tell you that ain't no pyramids in Africa bigger than any pyramid in the Americas. You got questions? Comments?
How many, my brother here was telling me something, he was telling me about these 4 nations. So how, besides you and more, what other nations do people claim?
Well, if we, okay, so majority of, if we look at um, outside of North America, right? Outside of North America. So if we go just south, they got Mexicans who say that they're here, right? You know that's North America. They got Bolivians, got Peruvians, right? Whoever else, right? So that's Americans. Right? Asia, they got Hindus, Pakistani, Sri Lankan, Scottish, British, we'll call this Brutish, English slash Albion.
Is our family.
Alright, please more. Right? Yeah. There's something else they gotta get from that. There's something else they don't have. That folder, that green folder. And then they have to link Amari to get something else sent. Right? So Asia and Americans. Right? So we know this continues, right? Everybody's gonna say Scottish, British, English, whatever, and then they're gonna say, oh well, you know, Europe. Don't forget Europe. Europe's in Asia. Europe's not a continent. Right? So that's eliminated. And then when we have British right here, also Brutish, because Brutish were the Moors, right? English were the Moors, Scottish were the Moors, Irish, were the Moors. German were the Moors. Right? What other European nation is there? You forget Australian. Those are the Moors. And then Moor means any dark-skinned person, especially African Negro. Any dark-skinned person. Jesus. Right? Any dark-skinned person. So when we do our research on the first English, you find out that they were dark-skinned people. You can do your research on the first Irish, you find out that dark-skinned people. The first Germans were dark-skinned people. The first Romanians were dark-skinned people. The first popes, the first whatever, were dark-skinned people. So the claim that we make as Moors, encompasses the globe. So that ties us to all these, because all these have some connection to dark-skinned people. As far as North America is concerned, right, we claim Moorish American because we're taught that we are Moroccans born in America. So that's why we say this, Moorish American. Because we're descendants of